Hey everybody,
Folks.
what's going on? Was it
Moran,
me or
how
was
are
that
you?
introduction, did that seem a little bit shorter than normal? Who
It was a
knows?
it was a lightning quick introduction.
It was a lightning quick introduction. Lewis, good to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are joining us, hey Wendy, hi Terry. I know Vincent's on the call. He's got his camera off. He will be back momentarily. JM, good to see you. Somebody else says it's connecting to audio, so I don't know who that is. Mitch, I see you, but hey, do me a favor, will you? As you're coming into the call, throw in the chat for me what area or province you're coming from. I always like to keep tabs on how far our reach is. One of the things about REWL I'm noticing is that we have a wide reach all across Canada, but we need to deepen our membership in each city, so to speak. Where are you guys coming in from? I'm in Toronto, by the way. Kitchener. JD, you're in Kitchener. I did not realize that. I invest a lot in Kitchener. We should grab coffee sometime. I'm there once a week. North Vancouver, Terry Brown. Wendy's, you're in Woodstock to be exact, yes. Hey, Jesse, good to see you, my friend. Well, listen, let's get this show on the road. If you're new to us, we are Real Estate Wealth Lab. We are a bespoke, very custom-built real estate investment group, and we help investors build businesses in the world of real estate. We work with you to get things done, to get properties bought, to solve the problems, and to really create wealth for us. Joining me on the call today, there's a couple of people I want to highlight. Lewis, why don't you jump in the call and just introduce yourself? Give me a 1 minute intro so everybody knows who you are, because I know we've got some new members joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Duran. Hey, folks, how are you? My name is Louis Aranu. I am the Chief REWL Advisor here, and I've been investing for about 12 years. My real focus and expertise is around the construction space. I've been doing that for 24 years, and I help folks kind of plan their renovations, go through whatever procurement they need, and I'm quite active in the space still with a lot of different types of renovations, with my own properties and with properties for clients. So that's a little bit about me. I think we have a few more folks here as well. Who we have? Is Vincent going to join us momentarily? Now, our speaker Keith is raring to go.
So, Lewis, we've also got Wendy in the house. And Wendy, I know you've been away for a few weeks. You've been busy doing your stuff. Come on in and introduce yourself. Give us a 30-second blurb about who you are, because I don't think JD has ever met you, and I don't think Jesse has met you. Where are you, Wendy? I know you're in the room somewhere.
There she is.
Oh, there she is. Can we get Wendy and Vincent? Why don't you guys jump in? Give yourself a quick intro so that people get to know you. Go ahead, Wendy.
All right. I'm Wendy Bradley. I am in the Southern Ontario, Woodstock, Kitchener kind of area. My investments are all in the Kitchener area. I am a REWL advisor as well and have a lot of fun doing that. I've been investing in real estate for probably 15 years maybe now. And I also help teach the REWL beginners course, which is a whole lot of fun, and really enjoying where REWL is going to take us on the next journey. So can't wait to hear more about that. So glad to be here.
That's awesome. And for those of you who don't know, Wendy is the queen of duplexing. At least I've branded her as such. And Lewis, I know, has he says he's done construction for 24 years. Now, Lewis, just turn your mic off for a minute. Like, don't listen to this. This cat actually looks like he's 24 years old today, maybe 25. So he was probably born with a shovel and a measuring tape. But he's done over $1 billion worth of contracts in renovation. So he knows what he's doing. Vincent, why don't you jump on and give a quick introduction of yourself, and then we'll get on the roll.
Absolutely. So Chief Technology Officer, super excited about where REWL is going, especially with confidence, AI, and I've been in the space for a few years now, especially working with the 3 major banks, and we're bringing that technology and partnering with confidence specifically in real estate. So super excited. I mean, I encourage everyone to sign up for that free trial for confidence, and you'll learn more about it, especially with Ken in the group. But yeah, that's just the beginning. So yeah, REWL's really taking shape here. So I'm loving it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Vincent. And Vincent really is the guru of all things techie. He writes code while he's sleeping. Now, some of us just make money in real estate while we sleep. Vincent actually writes code at the same time. Why don't we bring our special guest on? And as Annalise, as you're pinning him to the, you can take the others off, and Keith and I are going to have a chat for a few minutes, and then we'll bring everybody back on. While that's happening, what I want to mention is that Real Estate Wealth Lab, if you're interested in joining our group of real estate investors, we are a club that is run by investors for investors. If my team could just throw in the chat our email address or some way for them to connect, you can connect with us. There's a free trial. I believe it's 14 days long. And then you'll be able to test drive us and see if we are a good fit for you, and see if you are a good fit for us. Love to have you on board. Keith Uti, welcome.
Hey, good evening, sir.
Keith, thank you for making the time today. I know you're at a conference and you stepped out just to speak to our rowdy group. So I'm so glad to have you on board here. Keith, I got to ask you, one of the reasons I wanted you to come on this call is because you've been in the real estate game for a long time. And I think you and I have probably been doing real estate longer than maybe our young puppy 24-year-old Lewis has been in the game. That's my guess. But here's what I'm noticing for this past year, in the last little while, for the first time since 2008, I am noticing a huge level of apprehension, of fear, of what in the world is going on in real estate. And, you know, I'm in the world of real estate investing. I was expecting interest rates to go up. Here's what I missed. I did not expect them to go up as aggressively and as fast as they did. And I did not think through well enough to go, what does this mean for my portfolio? And when you've got a whole pile of properties and a bunch of them are on variable and things are moving up and numbers are getting out of whack, it starts to feel scary. And I don't know about you. If you are hearing this and you're thinking, you've been around and you're feeling unsettled about it, just throw it in the chat. Or if you've got a question about it, throw it in the chat and we'll see if we can get to it in a minute. Here's the big question I have for you, Keith. Given what's going on, the uncertainty in the market, well, question one, what's going on? Are we in trouble? Is the sky falling? Are we done?
So, it's amazing because this event that I'm at is speaking directly to what we're talking about, kind of in this realm of what's going on. Well, the number one thing that's going on is we have a lack of supply. We are 5 million homes short in Canada. The US is 20 million homes short, and the world is 250. So in order that we would have to build 69,000 homes a day over the next 5 years to try to get where we're at now for shortage.
So Keith, your Wi-Fi is kind of dragging a little bit. Can you repeat those numbers for me and just turn your video off just when you repeat the numbers?
Yeah. So 5 million homes short in Canada.
So we're
20
5
million homes, 5 million short in Canada, 20 million short in the US, and 250 million short worldwide. So the home shortage crisis is not only happening in Canada where we're seeing it. This is a worldwide crisis. So when you look at what are the solutions and what can we as housing providers do to help create supply? So, and at this event, it actually happens to be DIRT, which is one of the top leading pre-manufactured suppliers for housing, for different housing solutions and building solutions. And as opposed, and so one of the things that, you know, they were talking about is that, well, what do we have a shortage of? Well, we have a shortage of labor and trades. And the one gentleman, his son is graduating grade 12. Out of 169 kids that went across the stage and talked about what are they going to do for their future, only 2 of them said they were going into a trade. So this is what feeds into our inability to create more housing. Well, we don't have the labor, so then it takes so long. So something like these prefabricated or using, you know, the conversion of the storage, the storage bins into homes. These things are ways that real estate investors need to change and shift their mind in what is the possible opportunity and possibility to be able to build their portfolio, create and grow their wealth, as well as help others have safe, secure housing to live in.
So Keith, let me, you can turn your video back on. I think you're catching up. And if you get, but let me just underline a couple things. You said a lot in those couple of minutes. So I just want to underline a couple of things for our friends and listeners. One of the things that you said is that we're 5 million houses short in Canada. That means not that we will be 5 million short in 5 years. You mean 5 million houses short now, right now. And it's not just a Canadian problem. We like to think that everything is happening around us, but it's not. It's a US problem, and it is a worldwide problem, right? So that takes me down a couple different roads, like what got us here. And you know, is it population explosion? I don't know. It seems to me that the growth of population right now from the studies that I'm reading is that we're actually going the opposite direction to a decrease in population. But one of the things that you highlighted was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the reasons for the housing supply, I know there's multiple reasons, is a lack of trade. Did I hear you correctly?
Absolutely. Like, I know many contractors. Louis can probably speak to this as well, being in the field even more than I am. But builders are struggling to find framers, drywallers that they can get to, cribbers that they need to be able to get these houses done, and with quality, right, Vincent? Vincent knows this all too well, that, and so it's not like it's having quality trades to do the work, and that's a struggle. And so when we look at what does this have to do with mortgages? Well, it has everything to do with mortgages and housing prices and financing, because number one, that means that prices get pushed up because of a lack of supply.
Right.
And when you have supply chain issues, now you're talking economics. And so you're talking what happens when you have a lack of supply. The price of that goes up. And we're not talking just the houses. We're talking fixtures, drywall, wood, all material things for chemicals for concrete, resin for windows, shingles, all these things, right? And so right now, we have a huge macroeconomic situation that has pushed things up. Now, will we get caught up from what was lost during COVID? it's going to take a very long time to get caught up on 2 years. Now, if we look more just micro at Canada, one of the things that got us to where we are in Canada with huge inflation was, unfortunately, you can call this a political statement or not, we fed too much free money out into the market for at least 6 months too long.
Got it.
Maybe 12, but 6 for sure. And so some people had that money and were working. Some people had that money and they just spent it. Some people, and so this creates a push on inflation that's created inadvertently. It wasn't planned that that's what was going to happen, but that's what the result was. And so because of that, we end up where we are with inflation pushing interest rates, variable interest rates.
So a couple of things that I want to underline here again. You've touched on supply, and you've touched on the false creation of money without it being really backed by anything for far too long, which has caused our inflation to get out of control. Right? It's one of the drivers. Having done all that, I know people, investors in this call, and we're sitting there going, well, that's all nice. Like there's two directions I want to go with in our conversation. One is I want to go into the direction of, all right, Keith, you're a smart cookie. How can I, as a real estate investor, be part of the solution? That's one question. I want you to put that in the back of your mind, because I want to ask you a second question before you get there. And that's the immediate pain point. All right. Love to help, but right now I'm feeling dangerously like off kilter, like things are not working out. What can I do today in the lending environment to help me stop the boat from capsizing? What are some practical things that you see in the market? And maybe Keith, let me ask a better question. What are things that you think we should be doing? And let me leave it there, and then I'll go to the next question on that.
So number one, one of the, I don't know if this is not necessarily number one, but one of those things is we need to reconsider how we write our leases. How do we write our leases, and how do we structure our leases with our tenants?
Right.
As far as what we charge for rent.
Keith, I just need you to turn your video off again for me.
How do we set up pet fees? How do we set up storage? Yeah, leases. What do we charge for? How do we charge our utilities? How do we charge pet fees? Mm-hmm. How do we charge garage rent? And if there's storage units, how do we charge storage unit rent? Things that you and I have engaged in about recently. And this is one of the things that as landlords or housing providers, whatever you want to call yourself, you have to be cognizant of for that. Now, utilities are for some investors, utilities are like a swear word. They don't want to get involved in it. But I tell you what, they can make you a little bit of extra money if you set up and structure them correctly and you know your property. And so we have in our portfolio for probably 7 years now, about 7 years, we have implemented a rent plus fixed utilities plus pet fee plus the garage addendum in our leases.
Right.
So this is one way that as investors you can help potentially ease the pain for yourself in if you're getting new tenants, how you're setting yourself up. If you have existing tenants, now Ontario is a little more difficult. So, but you can do this and help yourself and you help your tenants, because what's one thing that people are struggling with? The same thing you are, budget.
Yeah.
People are struggling with budget. So what do people love better than to know how much they're going to pay each month? And over the course of a year what your utilities average, And
You're right.
we do that plus a buffer to allow for fluctuations in those administrative fees and transfer fees and all of that stuff. We create a buffer. So we're probably about 10 to 15% buffer on that.
Got it.
But
So
our tenants don't, never have ever has a tenant come back to us asking for copies of the utility bills to see how much they paid.
got it. And Keith, what's the that is so good. And here's one of the things that I've realized. When real estate was good, and when you could just buy a brick, you didn't need to have any brains behind it, just buy a couple bricks and it appreciated, you thought you were an expert in real estate investing. And I found that many of us, even seasoned investors, we kind of let the small things slide. Things like utilities and things that you're talking about, like extra places that we can create a budget and a revenue increase from, we let that slide.
Yeah.
Now we're not letting that slide anymore because the necessity is driving our decision.
Well, and yeah, here's another key reason why we use rent plus a utilities addendum. So we have our lease and we have a utilities addendum. We don't do 60/40 or have the tenants do it. And here's why. The lenders are going to take a utility expense off of your qualification. However, if you have 60/40, they go, well, that's a variable monthly rate. We can't use that. But if you have a fixed monthly rate, $300 a month from the main floor, $200 from the basement, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's $500 a month in extra
that's
revenue that can be used in mortgage qualification.
that right there is brilliant.
Now let's add, oh, we're going to allow pets. Well, it's, we charge so for us, we charge $100 a month per pet.
No, in Ontario, I don't believe we can do that.
Well, I don't know that there's anything that says you can't.
All right, so
right?
let me just
let's go on the paraphrase of yes, you can, and you just have to verify this wherever you are, whatever province you're in. You have to verify this.
Yeah,
$75 we charge. So it's our agreement is $100 per month per pet, but we will offer a discount depending on the type of pet. And we always meet the pet. We want to know the pet before we decide what that discount is, if any. We have gotten as much as $150 a month for two of the sweetest large dogs I've ever met in my life.
Right.
So, I mean, that is, those can be cash cows for you if you're willing to do the work to set yourself up right. So just with that's huge additional cash flow that you could be leaving on the table.
Absolutely. That's a really good point, Keith. And I remember when I first started investing in real estate, I used to, thanks for turning your camera back on again, because I like to see people when I talk to them. One of the things that I did was I would actually put in, because I was heavily involved in the renting side and meeting the tenants before they moved in the ad, it would say, if you have a pet, great, we welcome pets, but we get to meet the pet. We are highly trained in all kinds of animal dialect, right? And it would actually get a chuckle out of people, and they would want to meet the pet. And I'm a dog owner myself. Like our house has a German Shepherd, a bearded dragon, and a budgie. So I'm very comfortable with pets. But in Ontario, what I've found is that landlords that are open to renting to people with pets, they tend to be really rundown properties. Whereas if you have a nice property and you've renovated it with 1 year towards having pets in that place. So for example, if I'm putting in laminate flooring, say, I don't put in the cheap stuff. I use commercial grade, AC4, AC5 commercial grade, because they withstand scratches. Now I get to bring in a pet, and I can charge a lot more for a nice place, because people with pets still like nice places to rent. Right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything else that we should be doing? Like, how can you as a mortgage broker help people like me if we're feeling like we need to get our numbers back in line outside of dealing with the tenant and increasing revenue? Is there some Houdini move you can make on your side?
Yeah, so absolutely. So everything starts with a conversation, number one, because everybody's situation is unique to them. How long they've owned the property, where are they in the term of their mortgage, where the property is located, what issues are they running into with the property? Do they need to be able to do renovations to increase rent? Did they have damage to the property? There's any number of situations that are different for each person in that conversation. But if we're talking strictly, I've got a variable rate and it's killing me. Okay, let's talk about what's your variable rate look like? Who is the lender? And what are the options that could even be considered with that variable rate at this time that could help you? So that's number one. Then, so that's kind of that first part question that I talk to clients about. What options do you have with your current lender? Then number two is, what options do we have outside of your current lender that could help? So can we look at transferring that mortgage to a different lender at just a better rate, keeping things very similar, but just a transfer? Is that a possibility? A lot of people have turned a former primary home into a rental, and it was on a variable, and now there's a struggle, and they're like, well, I can't. They don't think they can do anything. And so we look at those possibilities. The third one is maybe it's a refinance. Maybe now is the time to do that full refinance and try to create possibility and opportunity that way. And then,
so keep your slow down again, my friend.
I can't qualify. Okay. So then that's where some people say, without having a mortgage professional look at the numbers to give them what the possibility and the opportunity is. There's a reason my personal vision says all people are living a life of opportunity. And that's because that is what I bring into every conversation with a client, is what is the opportunity that's available to them. I never want to give them just a no and send them on their way. Whether it's no, not now, or it's no, you can't do A lending, but here's the B lending possibility. Or no, I'm sorry, you can't do A lending, B lending maybe, we might have to look at private lending. And here's how this is how option B or option C can play into helping you build your wealth for your future. Because for me, it's not just about filling out an application and getting someone a mortgage. It's about making sure this is going to be part of building their wealth by design and not by accident. Because I am the last stop sign before the light turns green and you get in to the final, you get in the final stretch. And if there's no one there to help you say, here's what could get in the way for you, are you prepared for that? If you don't have that conversation, boy, there's a lot of shock that can happen.
That's right. Yeah. Keith, I'm going to ask my team to jump on this call with me. Annalisa, if you could just pin up Lewis and Vincent and Wendy. But while they're coming on the platform, so to speak, on the Zoom platform, so to speak, here's my question for you, Keith. I've known you for a number of years. I've known you, how long have I known you now?
Oh, about 11 or 12 years?
At least 12 years.
At least.
And we invest in the same company together. We have worked together. How in the world did you end up? Because my experience of you is always you're looking to help people and create the opportunity. Like when you said that is just you. If there was a billboard about you, that's what it would say. But did you always, this is completely a sidebar question, but I'm curious. Were you born this way? Like, did you arrive out of the chute with a calculator in one hand and amortization schedule in the other and go, all right, who needs the mortgage? How did you
No,
end up
I
here?
didn't.
What drove this?
Yeah, you know what, I didn't. And you know what, it's interesting though, but if you talk to my mom, she would tell you, yeah, he should have been an accountant or a lawyer. I told him that as a teenager and he never did it. And so, you know, I took professional cooking. I took hotel and restaurant management. I worked in that industry. I worked as a realtor for a few years. I then worked in security for 17 years when we started building our real estate
In
investing.
security?
Yeah. I worked at the University of Calgary. I was in security. I refereed basketball for 30 years, able body, and I've refereed wheelchair for 23 now. But in all these different experiences, I have met, tons of different people. But what started it, our first real estate investment was in 2003. We bought a condo for my mother-in-law to live in because rents were increasing in Calgary. They were going to go to $700 for her on a condo. So, and so we bought a place for her. Then I found the Smith Maneuver book.
Right.
In about 2004. And Nancy and I, we decided to start looking at investing. We did a flip in 2005. We began implementing the Smith Maneuver in 2005. We converted our mortgage in 2 years using the Smith Maneuver, built our portfolio up further in 2007 and 2009. Then we had a gap till 2013 and 2014. And so, we've done, in that time, 6 different joint ventures with our portfolio, but it just, it started to hit me probably around 2009 that I needed to do something different, but I didn't know what it was as far as, and then I joined REIN, and I joined REIN where we first met in 2011. And I started to realize I had an affinity for numbers and stuff really then. I then left the security job, started at a private lender in 2014. I got let go from that in early 2016. Our good friend Richard Dolan said, you need to become a mortgage broker. And I took that, he introduced me to a couple of people. I took that on, and just my affinity for this has been great. But, Richard has been a huge influence with that, with helping me to understand what my purpose was. And being able to connect with that and bring that to people, one, has helped me in this business immensely because I take a different approach than anybody else. One, the fact that I'm a Smith Maneuver certified professional is fantastic. I help people to understand how to write off the mortgage interest on their primary home as a tax deduction rather than not being able to. But being a certified financial life professional, I can ask people the right questions in the right way to help understand what the relationship to money is. As a certified real estate investment advisor, I understand, in investing in real estate, I understand the pains. I'm going through 2 insurance claims right now on 2 different properties. I get the pains. And another property, the property manager emailed me twice this week. This property, the dishwasher went, and then the washer and the dryer were a problem. And then another one that he just emailed me today, the dryer, they almost had a fire in the dryer because they weren't cleaning the lint trap. And there's a whole bunch of lint.
Yeah. Oh, he's frozen up again.
I get that. I get those emails too, people. I get them too. Oh, sorry.
Got it.
I get those emails too. I get those emails too as a property manager. And that's really, I think, helps me connect with real estate investors and my clients, is I can relate. I've had the problem. I've not been able to qualify for a mortgage. I've had to correct the banker on how to get our first mortgage. I had to correct the banker on how to get us to qualify. That was probably the first hint that I had an affinity for
that
this.
You needed to move somewhere.
That I needed to do this because, she couldn't figure it out. I said, well, take this, move it here and do that. And she's like, oh yeah, that worked.
That's right. And Keith, I think if those of us who are like Lewis, Vincent, Wendy, I think we've all been there where we've had to correct the banker. So it's like, but it is really great to hear the abstract of your life in that quick format. What I will say about, and I'm going to invite my 3 colleagues here to jump in the conversation, ask questions, maybe comment. And if you are in the audience and you're listening to us and you've got a question, throw it in the chat, and or even if you want to come into the call and ask Keith directly, we can do that. Raise your hand or something like that. Okay. One of the things that I do notice about you, Keith, though, that different from the stereotypical, now I know I'm speaking in extremes here, but the typical accountant, you don't fit that mode because not only are you good with numbers, but you're also good with people. And that's a really important skill that those of us, if you want to do anything in life where you've got to be in front of people, develop the skill of being able to communicate with people, because that's crucial, that's important, right? And so it really does change the way you show up. So thank you for that. Gang, any questions or comments for Keith or yeah, go ahead, Wendy.
I just want to say that I've had Keith as a speaker, guest speaker on one of my beginners in real estate investing. And I just want to say Keith is energizing and engaging and honestly knows his stuff. And with the Smith maneuver, which was something honestly new to me, was an incredible experience. So I actually just want to say thank you, Keith, for everything you do to help us out and all of your knowledge for sure. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
That's awesome. Yeah. And if you are joining us right now and you're unfamiliar with what Wendy meant by that class or that course, become a member. You get to come in on we have different courses throughout the year. And right now, Wendy just finished it. Now I'm teaching it right now, and Wendy will be back in the fall teaching it on the basics and the fundamentals of investing in real estate, just so you don't lose your shirt in this business and you do well.
And I'm really hoping Keith will be back.
Anytime.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lewis, you got your mic on, so I'm assuming you've got stuff to say.
I do. Thanks, Narayan. Keith, always a pleasure to have you on. Such a great wealth of knowledge. For me, I have to ask, where can we go? Let's focus on Canada. Where can we go from coast to coast to find some yield these days? Because I want to make money. Are there particular markets that you're seeing some cash flow or some possibility for people to run, a BRRRR model and refinance and build some equity within a shorter period of time instead of the buy and hold that we're seeing in a lot of the major cities? Are there some markets that you could share with us that you're seeing some opportunity for folks?
Well, so I'm going to say that there's opportunity in every market. You just have to figure out what that opportunity is in a particular market. But then that also means, does that mean that you need to get into multifamily to be able to make it work in a particular market? Can you do it with residential? Like you can still get cash flowing properties in Calgary, in Edmonton, if you're going to do suited properties with, I would say, detached garages. You can do it with attached garages too, but suited properties with detached garages, you can still get those to cash flow in Calgary, in Edmonton, in Regina, in Saskatoon may be a little tougher. Their rent hasn't pushed up yet, but that's where understanding where a city is in the cycle of real estate is really important. Understanding what bylaw changes and proposed changes are important. So look up information for the planning and development of any city that you are interested in to find out what are they pushing for. Like Edmonton will now on certain size lots allow you to have a home with a basement suite and a garage suite. Calgary right now only allows you to have one or the other, as an example. So you have to be able to be aware of policies. I posted this, I don't know how many months ago now, about the new policies for Toronto. I think it's fourplex policy for Toronto. I think it was. When Ron's shaking his head, thank you. That is, those types of things. You have to be aware knowledge is power when you're a real estate investor. If you're trying, especially if you're trying to raise money, if you can present opportunity to other people that they didn't find because you are keeping your knowledge base fresh and to the front, that's important. There's a reason why I have on my phone, in my Chrome, I have the market watch on the 5-year bond yield open every day. And I check it 99% of the weekdays. There's some days where I just forget because I got too much going on. But that's what helps me know trends and be able to speak to trends. When people ask me about what should I do with my variable rate mortgage? Well, here's what's happening with the bond yield. So maybe you want to wait, or no, if you're going to do something, you need to do it now. Based on what we're seeing for a trend, because they're going to switch to a fixed rate. So, those are things to me that are super important to have. And it comes, I don't know, where does that come from? Boy, I don't know where it comes from in me that I do. I just want to know. But I guess it comes back to me wanting to be able to help people the best way I can. It's not because I want to seem smart, because I don't consider myself to be a highly intelligent person. My wife wipes me in Jeopardy when we watch it every night. So I get put in my place every day we watch Jeopardy. So I don't consider myself highly intelligent in that way, but I'm intelligent in what I do. And that's what matters most. And I think part of it is that I've learned how to ask the right questions. And if there's one thing I can tell any investors, that when you at any event and you're just having conversations with people, is how to ask the right questions.
Wonderful.
So I actually want to jump into that, Louis, as well, and Keith. So hey, Keith. Right now, me and Keith already had a meeting this chat today already. So me and him are connected. He's actually is doing my mortgages for my new development, my personal home. And so we're implementing the Smith maneuver. So if a lot of people are wondering what the Smith maneuver is, we actually have a recording on the Smith maneuver with Keith using my specific example in our vault. So you all have access to it. So you should go there, definitely listen to it and get educated. But there's a couple of things I want to say here. One, Louis, great question. I think I know the game's changing. So when you look at it, implementing strategies, being in calls like this where you learn from experts like Keith about the Smith maneuver, huge. It changes the way you could increase your net worth and pay off properties, produce income, producing rentals. But there's one thing as well. And I can't stress enough the AI component. And you're going to say, oh, Vince is talking tech. Exactly. You know why? Because as humans, we can only do so much when it comes to comparison data, analysis on data, and saying, hey, is this good or not? And then eventually we get exhausted, right? We only go to a certain limit and like, I think I did enough due diligence. That's what happens. Everyone does it. No one goes completely all out. But when you remove that human component, the emotion component, and you apply tools like confidence on it, now you're playing a different game. So what Keith said is there's opportunity in every market. Absolutely, 100%. Every market we're in, where you live, there's opportunity. The key is the due diligence. Now, with the tool, and I'm going to say it once more because I can't stress it enough, the confidence tool is your best friend right now. Log in, free trial. I'm just saying it's free trial. Log in, use it. It does all the due diligence for you. It takes the emotion out. You say, oh, I want to go look in that pretty area all over there. There's nice trees and all that. You know what? It's going to tell you on a heat map where to invest, where not to invest. It's pulling all the data from MLS, Pad Mapper, you name it. It has tons of data behind it. Now, at the same time, it's going to tell you what the market rents are, what sold recently, all in the neighborhood in a nice graphical way. But when you're now removing emotion using technology, the technology is going to tell you where to invest and where not to invest using the analytics, and everything is there. So Louis, to your point, you know, which market, where, you know what, start looking in Ontario. So confidence itself is just right now beta in Ontario. So whoever's in Ontario right now, go use that tool to see what you should invest in next. Now, right now it's single family. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure Alberta is coming in the fall, I think September timeframe. But for me, right now, the best market is Alberta. So we don't have rent control. I don't know about you guys, but our gas is $1.33 a liter. So it's huge.
That's cheap.
Our province, our you know, it's conservative. I know our province, and I love it. Our premier said right away, we're not going to charge tax on, you know, the gas. So we save 13 cents off the liter right at the pump. So you got to look at the fundamentals on who's trying to ease the stress. We're all got stress right now. But if you don't have rent control, you have cheaper, you know, utilities, which we got. You got migration coming into Alberta like crazy, and our housing prices are, and I was just in Toronto on the weekend, cheap compared to what you guys got over there. like you want, if you want to win at a game, you get in at the low point. Everyone knows that. Lower the price, the margins, the higher the margins can go in the future. But at the same time, do the due diligence, use tools like confidence, take the emotion out, right? That's the biggest thing. Now, but you can't
take away the knowledge.
Exactly.
And you've got to do the work. Confidence is great once you have determined that this is the place for you to invest. Yeah. Don't let the AI tell you where to invest. Let AI tell you what the opportunities are once you've decided it's the right location to invest.
Yeah. And the reason I say, I agree with you. The reason I say use the tool is because you want to be in front of the line for opportunities. Everyone's looking for opportunity. So leverage tools to do it. And then I use the tools. I also do my own due diligence once I filter them all down, right? So that's huge as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, and one of the, so I you know what, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that there's the investors that are just like, I just want to get in the game, and they're not even in the game yet. So for them, there's like, you know, number of lending options we can look at, but there's those that have been in the game and maybe they own 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 properties. And so the rules of real estate from the policy perspective of lenders and OSFI have changed the game and are continuing to change the game as we continue through 2023. No longer do we have A lenders with unlimited rentals anymore. Now it's, you know, we can do this, but we can't do that. And now the order in which we use lenders to try to get financing to maximize portfolio size for clients is completely different than it was even 2-3 years ago, because the policies have changed, and it'll change. And then in the B lender market right now we have B lenders that will do unlimited rentals. But I heard today their policy is going to be, one of them, their policy is going to be changing. And so these are things that we have to wade through for the clients based on some timing and planning through this whole process. Because what we talk about today, conversation I have with a client today, gosh, that can be a different conversation. And even 3 months from now, because the government has their fingers in the pot more now than ever, because they realize that their prices are increasing. They're trying to control prices, but they can't get enough influence on supply. And so they're trying to slow things down as much as they can. But people are going, we still want a place to live. We're tired of renting. And we've got immigration coming in. Calgary's net immigration last year was 30,000 people. Mm-hmm. Well, that eats up a rental supply real quick.
Absolutely. But there's one key point there that I want to make is don't do it alone. Don't try to be a hero, and don't try to do it alone. Get the best team possible that you have, that you know, that's referred, proven track record. Like, that's why I go to Keith. I don't know every rule. I don't have time to know every rule on what's changing, what's not, but I know he's an expert at it, and that's why I use him, right? I come on calls like this because I learn from everyone else in the room what's happening, what's not happening, right? So that's the biggest thing, is get your team in place. And I know, Wendy and Naran, I heard you in your calls in the beginner course, same thing. It's all about the team, right? Is that right?
Absolutely. And we just finished reviewing teams. Isn't that right, Lewis? In the last week, I think.
Last week or so, yeah.
One of the things that you want to be aware of, or something that I've found, is that the person on your team that got you into the first 2 properties is not necessarily the person on your team that'll get you into your 5th and 6th. So, for example, Keith, you are extremely skilled at navigating multiple different properties and complex portfolios. You've got not just the knowledge and the wisdom, but you also know how to layer it, and you've got the connections to make it happen. So if any of you listening here, you want to get in touch with Keith, email us at info@realestatewealthlab.com, and we will make sure that you are connected to Keith. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, anything else before we close this call off? And is there anything from the audience that I'm missing? If my team can just look around and make sure that I'm not missing somebody.
I have one more question for Keith, only because I love the topic while we're searching for anyone that has another question. But Keith, I guess I want you to more or less just agree with me on this. But you know, we've already, like I said, we've already touched on it at the beginning of this call. But the resources between material, labor forces, and serviceable land ready to go for construction, and again, just focusing on Canada, in all 3 categories, we are hurting and are searching for more resources in land, labor, and material. I already know the answer, but do you see it catching up, or is there anything that you're aware of that we don't know that is going to change the tide here, and we're going to have another 500,000 houses in the next 5 years or something like that? Because I don't see it ever happening. I only seen it getting worse for a multitude of reasons. But I think that's a good thing for investors, because it's going to continue to help our industry in certain ways if you know how to take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I'm going to turn my camera around just for a second. You can see where I'm at here.
Yeah.
And so, if someone has chat open, maybe Naran, you can type this in, and it's called Arthroto, ARTHROTO. They are partnering with DIRT, DIRRT, and DIRT specializes in prefabrication. Arthroto is specializing in the conversion of Arthroto, ARTHROTO, and DIRT, and they are specializing in the conversion of the empty real estate space downtown Calgary into residential space. And so this is where you can look at the possibility of opportunity in other cities, or even maybe investing in with these, finding a way to invest with these types of companies who are going to change the landscape of how quickly we can create some housing supply. Because this is part of that smart solution and technology that's coming into real estate to make these spaces. Calgary is an outlier in the creation and the conversion of these spaces. San Francisco has a 24.6% office tower vacancy rate, and they have not started this type of conversion yet, but yet they have a housing supply shortage.
Yeah, that, and then the politics behind it and bureaucracy with getting things changed like that is I guess the fourth problem, right? It's just so slow. That really contributes to
and
the
Calgary City
land.
Calgary City Council is all in on this. The local city government is behind it, and the owners of these towers are behind it because well, why shouldn't the city be behind it? They need to be able to collect the taxes. And
Yeah.
why shouldn't the owners be behind it? Because they need to be able to generate revenue out of these spaces. So, you know, this is huge for that to happen. And yeah.
That's a good point. I think a portion of that commercial real estate, with it being converted to some type of housing and residential accommodation, would not be a mistake. I don't think the type of commercial use is going to come back the way it was suited before the pandemic. Definitely people are making a shift and working from home a lot more, and a lot of that square footage can be converted into a higher and better use for residential. There it is, Arthrato.
Okay.
So let me move towards closing us off because our time is, we've got 4 minutes left.
I have a quick question. Sorry
Go ahead.
to bump in. Just to rip off of Louis' question. So, Keith, the government is raising interest rates to try and, you know, smooth out inflation, etc. Have you heard of anything where the government's going to be involved to augment trades or anything like that?
Well, I mean, well, there's different programs through the education in provinces where they try to promote trades to people to get into trades. Yeah, you wish, Vincent, you wish. 40-year mortgages. Some private lenders are offering 40. Some B lenders are offering 35-year mortgages, but there's not anything like that. The one thing, though, that I will note is if you had asked me about an increase in July last week, I would have said, maybe a possibility. But there was a CPI report that just came out yesterday that I posted on my various social media. Take a look at it if any of you didn't see it. And that indicates that we likely won't see an increase in July, I would say, because CPI there's a lot of things that are down based on that CPI report. And I think that they're going to hold pat for July. And we're only like, when you look at when they were raising interest rates and it started raising interest rates from, you know, the point where we actually got back to where we're not even back to where the interest rate was at this point last year to where it was prior to pandemic. And so we're only about 12 months in since they started raising interest rates. And so the effects of that are still not being fully seen and felt. And so we will hopefully we're starting to see cracks in that soon, and it's going to come. But, you know, the biggest thing is, remember, fixed rates and variable rates are based off two completely different parameters. And you need to be aware of that. People often blend them together. It's not necessarily true. They're not direct related. There's some inverse relationship there. But there's some, you know, some relationship there as well, because inflation feeds the markets and the markets go up because they're making money because of inflation. And so then that pushes the bond yield up, which impacts fixed rates. So but it's not just a direct correlation just because.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, just because the government increases the prime lending rate doesn't mean fixed rates are also going to go up at the same time. And same the other way.
Got it. And the inverse relationship that you're speaking about, Keith, is when variable rate goes up, bonds tend to react, but that's more of an emotional reaction. Would that be correct?
Correct. It's more of usually an emotional reaction that happens in relation to that.
And over time, like over, say, a few weeks or days, does that emotion bleed off, and does the bond rate adjust to that?
Well, so what happens is with the bond rate is, if you understand financial reporting cycles in the markets, that's going to dictate what happens.
You're lagging again, my friend.
A lot. So when you get April and middle of April sorry, probably going to lose you guys here soon if my battery dies. So that's the relationship, is positive financial reporting from businesses pushes up the markets, which pushes up the bond yield because money moves out of the bonds into the
Okay.
market. When the markets have a negative push, money moves out of the markets into the bond and it pushes it down. So when markets are bullish, bonds will go up. When markets are bearish, bonds will go down.
Awesome. We do have one question, sorry to pop in, because I know we're at time, but we have a question that says, is it more difficult to get a mortgage for a manufactured home?
If you're trying to build it, yes. If
What
it's
about
already
a prefab?
prefab, if you're trying to build it, yes. If it's already built though, like if a prefab home is already built, it's completely finished, and that's how it happened to be built, and it's on a foundation, on a concrete foundation, generally not a problem. But manufactured homes or a mobile home that's not on a fixed foundation, it's possible. They want them to be newer, within usually 10 years, and those can be done, but it's definitely more challenge.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Keith, thank you so much for your time. I know you stepped out of a conference to join us today. And if you are listening to this and you found this of value, or if you're feeling like some of the stuff is going over your head, that's okay. Join us. Give us the privilege of walking with you, and give yourself the privilege of walking with us, because together we're really good at what we do. So come join us. Keith, thank you again for your time. If you want to connect with Keith or for anything related to REWL, just send us an email or at info@realestatewealthlab.com. Vincent, why don't you have our parting words and close us off today?
Have a great week. Take care, everybody. Thanks. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, everyone.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure being here.
Thanks again, Keith. Really appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Jeez,
Take
Kelly
care.
just
Bye.
called this a mini session. Oh my God, I'm drained.
Bye, everyone.
Everybody check out Confidence. Don't forget.
Bye now.
See ya. Have a good night.
Good night.